the Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
Gordon McCormick, aka Ghost of Base Patrick Henry. Y'all have probably gotten sick of me by now because I feel like this is like my 15th hour streaming over the past 2 days. Although I guess last night technically we were pre-recording, so that show hasn't actually hit the air yet. Yeah, but a lot happening, and obviously a lot related to not only geopolitics, but this show, the focus of not just this show, but just a lot of the stuff that I chase down and the rabbit holes I go down. And we will talk about some of that today. I'm going to try to cover other topics too. I did spend like an hour plus on like the post-game debrief with Netanyahu, with the Netanyahu-Trump meeting yesterday. So you can go check out that to get a full fix of that. I'll cover it today again because I'll have some thoughts after sleeping on it. I'm going to share some clips of other takes from other notable people because I think that this is, something that I've seen coming for a long time. But it's nice that it's actually kind of broken through. And I think now just seeing how it's going to settle and then where we go from here, because I think there is going to be, this isn't going to be smooth sailing. I just like with the Rwanda, DRC thing. I said that this wasn't the end of that situation, and it hasn't been. This is not the end of the conflict in the Middle East. This might just be the beginning, honestly. But anyway, let's not get ahead of ourselves. First, let's today, by the way, is going to be a shorter show. It's probably going to be like an hour and a half because I'm taking my kids to the carnival. So I just want to give everyone a heads up. So we'll try to be respectful of that and do halftime at 45 minutes, something like that. But before we get going, let's get a word from a sponsor. The Scales Freedom Collection is a tribute to the untamed spirit of being on the water where horizons stretch endlessly and the only boundaries are the ones you choose. Out here, freedom isn't a concept, it's a feeling. The quiet before a cast, the rush of a drag singing, the rhythm of the tide, designed for those who find purpose where the land ends. This collection of performance shirts, butter soft tees, and ocean-worn hats lets you wear that feeling wherever you roam. Shop now at badlandsmedia.tv/scales and enter the code Badlands at checkout for 20% off your next purchase. And thank you to Scales for their support and partnership with Badlands. All right, so yeah, let's just jump right into it. The big news, of course, the Trump peace proposal. We ran through it today on Badlands Daily. I'm sure a lot of you saw Badlands Daily if you didn't catch my coverage of the Netanyahu-Trump meeting yesterday. And kind of the TLDR on it is Trump has firmly come out and clearly supports the let me pull this up, the Saudi French plan, the one that I think got Tammy Bruce fired when she disrespected it back in July. So it's a 20-point plan. It explicitly says that Israel will not occupy or annex Gaza. which is something that their government has been hard pressed to do. It's particularly Bezalel Smotrich, Itamar Ben-Gvir, Netanyahu himself. It talks about a temporary transitional governance led by a technocratic, apolitical Palestinian committee. A little concerning about the technocratic term, but there's enough awareness, I think, with Donald Trump that he knows that putting a word like that in there is going to trigger a lot of emotions. So there's got to be a strategy here. Trump's just too smart to put something like that in there without understanding the significance of it. And of course, the pathway to statehood, I think, is in point 19, I believe it is that throughout this process, there will be a path to statehood ultimately. And the establishment of the ISF, the International, I think is it International Security Force, I think is what it's called. And it's very promising. And the map that is being circulated, that seems to be attached to it, is this map. The blue line, of course, is the current boundary line that's being held by the IDF. They're going to retreat back to the yellow line immediately. Then at that point, all of the hostages being held by Hamas, both dead and alive, will be released. In exchange for, after that happens, Israel will release all their hostages. They'll also release some people serving life sentences, including women and children, who were arrested before October 7th. And then once this ISF force, which apparently is prepared to mobilize immediately, this is an international force of Arab soldiers. Once they file in and they start taking over and serving as police and security, the IDF will fall back to the red line and then ultimately fall back to the perimeter in this buffer zone, which appears to be, I don't know, a quarter of a mile, maybe half a mile across, will surround all of Gaza for the time being. Now, I find the peace proposal that's been put out very promising, especially the fact that it includes the language of the Saudi French right here in point number 9. The Saudi French proposal. Again, I think that's just pure signal that Tammy Bruce was actually fired for disrespecting that, as I've covered extensively on this show. Do I think that Israel's going to honor this? No, I don't. I don't think that this is going to actually happen. I think this will actually happen long term, but I think there's going to be a lot of obstacles and twists and turns before we get there. Right now, I think the ball, sounds like, is in Hamas's court. They have, I've seen 48, I've seen 72. Sounds like it's, Trump said 3 or 4 days, I think, in his speech this morning to the generals. So they have a couple days to say yes. And then once that happens, that'll be, I think from that point, they have 48 hours to release the hostages. So it says, okay, within 72 hours, I'm sorry, is in point 4. So within 72 hours of Israel publicly accepting this agreement, all hostages alive and deceased will be returned. There you go. So they have 72 hours. I assume the clock started yesterday, which means 2 days from today, which puts us at Thursday. We'll know for sure, if not sooner. Oh boy, we got Kashmir. What is going on in Kashmir? Let's just check this out real quick. Protest escalates in Kashmir and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir as civilians capture police officers. Okay, well, I don't know if we'll end up getting to that today, but considering that Saudi just signed a security agreement with Pakistan, that reeks of disruptive Operation Gladio type situation. But let's I want to go to Bannon, because Bannon is I think Bannon has been pure signal ever since June 13th, ever since the Iran attack by Israel. There's a few clips I want to share of him. I'm not going to speed him up. I'm just going to play him at full length. I think Bannon deserves that. And, Bannon, I think, has a lot of credibility in this battle, on this topic, because it might actually make more sense to might actually make more sense to play the second clip before the first clip, where he talks about being called an anti-Semite. Yeah, because Bannon, has always been pro-Israel. I've never heard him say anything bad about Israel, even question Israel, up until the attack on Iran. And I said that, I think it was June 15th, which was 2 or 3 days. So the 13th was a Thursday, 14th was Friday, 15th was Saturday, 16th was Sunday. So I guess it would have been June 17th. That was when Eric Trump went on Bannon's show and talked about his father being the greatest rhino hunter of all time. And then Tucker came on the second hour, and him and Bannon turned on Israel publicly. And they've both been going hard in the paint on Israel ever since, and Netanyahu specifically. Okay, so Bannon yesterday actually talked about this. He talked about that inflection point. And I said it was an inflection point. I said that was when everything changed. And I applaud Bannon and Tucker together for coming together at the same time and doing this, because remember, I was tracking that like minute to minute. That was before we got involved. That was before the bombers allegedly took out the nuclear program. And the zeitgeist was the Republican Party was in full court press. Con Inc. was in full court press. We're going to war with Iran. Like, hell yeah, let's go. And they came out together and said, this is the stupidest idea y'all have ever had. We're not going to war. So let's hear what he has to say.
Most importantly, what was I ranting and raving about when all of a sudden Steve Bannon goes, from a big supporter of Israel to now I'm an anti-Semite? What is that? It was about the Persian War, the 12-day war. And remember, I said, what doesn't make sense here is you have Tulsi Gabbard saying one thing and John Ratcliffe, who basically has a huge relationship with the Mossad, saying something diametrically opposed. And that was, we had to go now. It was so urgent. You had to go urgent, because they're hours away, days away, weeks away from a nuclear weapon. Remember that? Back on that Thursday night when they went and the surprise attack and they tried, it was next day, Friday morning, the show, I started the show saying this was a decapitation move. This was not nuclear weapons. This was decapitation. They killed the negotiators. They tried to decap the Iranian army. They even went after some of the secular leaders. And don't get me wrong, a lot of those folks deserve killing. Okay, I'm very anti mullahs. But there's a way you do things to make sure we don't get sucked into another war. I said at the time it was a bald-faced lie, and I banged on the table over and over and over again. It's a bald-faced lie. And then on Sunday, they bombed Thursday night, Friday morning our time. On Sunday night, he goes on Bret Baier, and Bret Baier says, what was the urgency about? And Netanyahu starts stumbling and, it's urgent. He says, they were 6 months, they were a year away. And I came back on the show on Monday and go, this is the urgency, a year away. We had to go and suck us into a regime change war because they want regime change. It's not about they're using that as a method to get us in here. Well, the Times of Israel, which the New York Times of Israel comes out with a definitive report on the discussions of the war cabinet. And what is the discussion of the war cabinet come out? It was 2 years away. Not 2 weeks, 2 years away. Let me repeat that for the Israel First crowd. You backed up all of his lies, and I haven't heard a peep out of you since the Times of Israel came out with this report about from the minutes of the war cabinet. 2 years away. And now they're questioning, Netanyahu's out questioning, did we get all the nuclear weapons? President Trump said total and complete obliteration. Take your number 2 Pernsel out, Netanyahu.
Take your number 2 Pernsel out. Love the way he says Pernsel. Yeah, base Bannon. All right, I want to play this second clip because this is, I played a little bit of this on Badlands Daily. I'm going to play the full thing. It's like 5 minutes, 45 seconds. Just bear with me here. Because, again, you're listening to a guy who his entire life has been pro-Israel. Okay, he's never said anything bad about Israel. He's never questioned Israel. He's never criticized Israel. He's never done any of that stuff. But he's been going hard on them since the middle of June, since the Iran bombing. And so again, you're not listening to ghosts. You're listening to Bannon, and it's interesting.
You could also tell him the president, I say he looked tired. He also, I don't want to say dismissive, but when Netanyahu's glazing him as he always does, he's the greatest friend to Israel, he's the greatest man of peace in the world history. President Trump was like, okay, let's move along. You can tell his face. Let's get on with this thing. He's spending an inordinate amount of time on this, and Netanyahu doesn't seem like an ally, much less a vassal state or a protectorate. Does his own thing, including they just come out of the Oval Office where he had to get him on the phone with the head of Qatar to have Netanyahu apologize in front of Trump about sending missiles in to kill the negotiating team. Of course he killed the negotiating team. Just like on their strike, the first thing they went for is the negotiating team. I think I see pattern recognition here. I see a pattern. It's all about him to keep himself in power. And you got Tel Aviv, Levin, and these guys out there right now. You know, Levin's got his big analysis. Well, when you look at it, it doesn't say two-state solution. It says, you know, aspirations of the people, and there's nothing about the West Bank. This is when Trump does something that he feels needs to be done. You guys get in the middle and want to spin it and want to control it. Okay, note to self. Read the 20 points. That is a beginning of a two-state solution. So that's what you, Tel Aviv, Levin, and Bibi Netanyahu have foisted upon the state of Israel. Because if this deal gets done, and President Trump has anything to do with it, it will get done. Because number one, he raised the money. The Gulf Emirates going to put up the cash. Look, at least it looks like that. And whether you think Gaza is going to turn into some great beachfront property, it's going to be the Miami Beach of the Mediterranean, or replace Lebanon as the Paris of the Mediterranean, or if it's going to continue to be a hellhole. President Trump's put a lot of effort in this, and his vision is, hey, I've raised the money. Now I just got to bring the parties together. The rest of the parties are not putting in the money. And anybody sitting there fantasizing, and it is a fantasy, and you know it's a lie. And I think, given the track record of Netanyahu, the duplicitous nature of him, the sneakiness of him, his cunning nature, and his bald-faced lies. Oh, did I mention he's on Fox over the weekend? So, yeah, we never intended to take out the entire, nuclear capability. Well, tell that to a guy named Donald J. Trump, who uses the phrase total obliteration. So Tel Aviv, Levin, and the America First crowd now spinning this. Well, it doesn't really say nothing mentioned the West Bank. So that's good. No. This deal, it is a condition precedent of this deal that Israel's not going to take over the West Bank. Otherwise, this deal makes absolutely no sense. And of course, none of the Gulf Emirates, the Arabs are going to put up with that. What brought the Arabs together? They talk about it all the time now. Was Netanyahu not asking the United States permission, going into and doing a missile attack to take out Hamas's leadership so they couldn't negotiate? Why? So they couldn't get a deal. Why? So Netanyahu, the war can continue, Netanyahu stay in power. It's all pretty straightforward. Now, what's the probability of this happen? I have no earthly idea. What I do know is the president of these United States had put a lot of time and effort. And you saw up there today a guy who's a little tired. You know why? Because he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders, and every decision is a huge decision. Oh, yeah, he only deployed troops last night to Portland. He's deploying troops to Chicago. He's trying to put down what is beginning, and I keep telling you, spinning towards a civil war unless we put it down now. So, yeah, he gets the right to be a little tired. And he doesn't need to put up a lot of crap. And that's all he's getting out of the Israel First crowd is a lot of crap. So you got a deal. And President Trump's, he's not asking. It's interesting. He didn't ask Netanyahu, what's your opinion of it? What are your thoughts? Can you give me some guidance here? He didn't. He says, this is the deal. You're taking it. Now, Hamas has got to meet the conditions they have for Hamas. They're not looking for Hamas to negotiate, although Qatar, so one of the big drivers is basically the sponsors of Hamas. But Israel had no input into this. None. Zero. Supposedly Witkoff and Kushner yesterday told Bibi what was officially in the document. They can spin it all they want. But this is how you treat a protectorate. Hey, here's what we're going to do. Here's why we're going to do it. Here's what you need to do. And by the way, if you want to do your own thing, if you don't like this, fine. You're your own independent nation. Go do it, but finish what you started. Don't drag us back in like you did with your lies and misrepresentation on the Persian situation, where you started something that even the very basics on the nuclear program, which was not your intended goal, but even that you couldn't even do. And you couldn't even defend your own people. President Trump had to bail you out. So the Israel firsters should suck on that for a moment. And all this spin right now, all this thing's great. Whether you think it's great or not great, nobody gives a damn. The deal's the deal. The deal's the deal. Now, if Hamas, which I think, knowing Hamas, their tendency to snatch defeat at every victory, the bottomless pit of the Muslim Brotherhood, who are not great guys, they're terrible. And an enemy of the United States, and something from my first day in the White House till today, I've argued, just like Antifa, should be designated a terrorist organization. Then we'll be getting somewhere.
Yeah, I just wanted to let that whole thing play out because, it's not about Bannon being necessarily right. Like for those who don't agree with everything Bannon says, I fully understand. Look, I have long respected Bannon, and I've long listened to him, but I've always obviously disagreed with him when it came to Israel because he was always an ardent Zionist, and he was always. But I'm able to separate those two things. I'm able to respect the places where we agree, and then respectfully disagree with him where we don't agree. I think we all need to learn that skill. It's a skill we all need to cultivate to be able to listen to people who we know that we don't agree with on key issues that we may that may be important to us. Because, ultimately one day they may come around when certain things and information occur. So, but it's always important to hear people out and hear what their positions are and hear what they're saying, especially if they're people who have demonstrated that they are smart and knowledgeable and considerate. And Bannon, I think, is as read in as pretty much anybody out there. I think him and Trump still stay in contact on a regular basis. So, there's always a lot of signal coming out of him. Chris Paul's dad, as we like to joke. Chris likes to joke. So I do want to talk about some of the stuff happening with Israel and the Hasbara campaign. Hasbara is like their propaganda, campaign, ongoing forever propaganda campaign. Before I do, let's shift to the military speech that Trump gave today, and him and Hegseth gave, because I thought this was actually really interesting. Okay, so this headline from The Hill: 5 takeaways from Hegseth's speech. I listened to Trump's speech in between the Badlands Daily because this was happening during Badlands Daily. So I listened to Trump's speech. I haven't listened to Hegseth's speech all the way through. I saw the clip that Brian showed during Badlands Daily. So I haven't listened to his speech. I'm just going to read these 5 takeaways from The Hill. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth announced a series of changes to the armed forces Tuesday that he claimed will raise the standards of America's combat troops and unburden commanders from a fear of violating internal military rules. The new policies announced in an extraordinary meeting of hundreds of military leaders in Quantico, Virginia, are an extension of Hegseth's campaign to reverse moves over the past 2 decades meant to make the military more inclusive of women and minority recruits. He cast the moves as necessary to increase the lethality of U.S. troops. A few months ago, I was at the White House when President Trump announced his Liberation Day for America's trade policy. It was a landmark day. Well, today is another Liberation Day, the liberation of America's warriors, Hegseth said. Quote, "You kill people and break things for a living. You are not politically correct, don't necessarily belong always in polite society," he added. Thank you. You are different. We fight not because we hate what's in front of us. We fight because we love what's behind us. Hegseth said physical fitness will be prioritized across the armed forces, even if that means fewer women in combat roles, and announced the military's internal complaint and investigations process will be overhauled to eliminate frivolous complaints. Quote, "If the words I'm speaking today are making your heart sink, then you should do the honorable thing and resign," he told the crowd of admirals and generals. Trump, who signed an executive order earlier this month that rebranded the Defense Department, the Department of War, spoke after Hegseth. And then it goes on to talk about the focus on fitness and grooming. Quote, "It all starts with physical fitness and appearance. If the Secretary of War can do regular PT, physical training, so can every member of our joint force. Frankly, it's tiring to look out at combat formations or really any formation and see fat troops," he told the military leaders Tuesday morning. Quote, "Likewise, it is completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and around the world. It's a bad look. It is bad, and it's not who we are. Hegseth told military leaders that all combat troops will be held to the highest male standard and field tests strictly enforced across the service. The defense secretary also reinforced new grooming standards he released earlier this month. Quote, no more beards, long hair, superficial individual expression. We are going to cut our hair, shape up, shave our beards, and adhere to standards because it's like the broken windows theory of policing. It's like you let the small stuff go, the big stuff eventually goes, he said. If you want a beard, you can join special forces. If not, then shave. Completely agree with that. I did not see that segment of his speech, but I completely agree with that. The next point was fewer women in combat roles. He goes on to explain the 1990s test is simple. What were the military standards in 1990? If they have changed, tell me why. Was it a necessary change based on the evolving landscape of combat, or was it the change due to a softening, weakening, or gender-based pursuit of other priorities? He said. It's pretty self-explanatory. Overhaul to the IG process is the next point. Hegseth announced the Pentagon will overhaul its process for filing complaints with the building's independent watchdog, telling officers the Defense Department will no longer allow anonymous complaints. He declared the department's inspector general process has been weaponized, claiming it has put complainers and poor performers in the driver's seat. He said the Pentagon will also change the process for its complaints filed under the Equal Opportunity Program, responsible for issues related to sexual harassment and discrimination based on race, gender, or religion, to end the poisonous culture of risk aversion. Quote, I call it the no more walking on eggshells policy, Hegseth told the assembled generals and admirals. We are liberating you. No more frivolous complaints, no more anonymous complaints, no more repeat complaints, no more ruined reputations, no more endless waiting, no more legal limbo, no more sidetracking careers or walking on eggshells, Hegseth said. Okay, yep. The next point is defends firings, says more coming. The Pentagon chief defended a string of high-profile firings, saying more leadership changes will be made, even encouraging the assembled generals and admirals to resign should they just disagree with his efforts. Quote, our job, my job, has been determining which leaders simply did what they must to answer the prerogatives of civilian leadership and which leaders are truly invested in the woke department and therefore incapable of embracing the War Department and executive new lawful orders, Hegseth said. Quote, the sooner we have the right people, the sooner we can advance the right policies. But if the words I'm speaking today make your heart sink, then you should do the honorable thing and resign. We already read that. And I think this is the last one. Instill healthy fear in training. Hegseth is also moving to change how basic training is conducted, empowering drill sergeants to instill healthy fear in new recruits. Quote, to that point, basic training is being restored to what it should be, scary, tough, and disciplined. We are empowering drill sergeants to instill healthy fear in new recruits, ensuring that future war fighters are forged, Hegseth said during the speech. Quote, yes, they can shark attack. Yes, they can toss bunks. They can swear. And yes, they can put their hands on recruits. This does not mean they can be reckless or violate the law, but they can use tried and true methods to motivate new crews to make them the warriors they need to be, Hegseth said. The Defense Secretary emphasized that every member of the armed forces should be proficient in basic infantry skills. Quote, we need to ensure that every member of our uniformed military maintains baseline proficiency in basic combat skills, especially because the next war, like the last, will likely not have a rear area. And then he goes on to talk about more range time, more shooting training, more like everybody should be combat ready. I agree with all that. I also agree with the idea of like instilling healthy fear in training. I've mentioned before that I went to art school in college. It was one of the highest ranked like public art schools for whatever that means. But the process was the format was that your freshman year, you were in like boot camp is what they called it. You weren't in like one of the schools, the school of painting, the school of sculpture, like whatever. And then you worked for a year. They worked you to the bone. They were like, if you're not doing 60 or 70 hours of work a week, then you don't belong. Like you're not cut out for this, and you should just quit. And they, there was like a 50-60% dropout rate in the first year, and that was by design. And then at the end of the year, you applied to the schools you wanted to get into. You submitted your portfolio, and then they were very selective of who they let in. And if you didn't get into any school, you didn't go, like you weren't welcome back. I got into all the schools that I got into my 1, 2, 3 choices, but I decided like the second month in, like October, that I wanted to transfer. I just finished out the year because I had to complete my transfer. and didn't study art anymore. I went into history, and that's a big reason why I'm doing what I'm doing today. It's because of the history stuff. But saying all that to explain that there was it was the burnout rate, like the burnout of the people who weren't meant to be there. I think that was part of it, like the natural attrition of working people to the bone and being like, this is what is expected of you if you're actually going to do this for a living, and make it the next 3 years of school. If you can't do it, then go ahead and just go do something else. And I think it's better for people to hear that at the beginning and be burned out than to actually get in and then not be committed to it, as a soldier, so to speak, like in the context of the military. So like everything he said, I think everything that at least that I'm reading is I approve of. And then this ties into Trump suggesting that using dangerous U.S. cities as training grounds for military. He's talking about D.C., Chicago, New York, and that defending the homeland is the military's most important priority. Now, this is interesting because I listened to Trump's speech and, referencing back to what Bannon said. Bannon was saying that Trump sounded really tired yesterday. I kind of agree. He sounded a little tired. He sounded very tired at this speech today. I think all of that was by design. If you remember back to November 2022, when the Republicans did not get the red wave that we were promised in the midterms, Biden's midterm, Trump came out and announced his candidacy for president, like right after that. And he seemed very deflated. And that's what drew in all the hyenas, all the wolves and the hyenas came out from the GOP. And Winsome Sears, the lieutenant governor from Virginia, was the first. She came out and said, we should dump Trump. He's a weakling. DeSantis is our guy, right? And then all the other ones started coming out. This is like appear strong when you are weak and appear weak when you are strong. Sun Tzu, that's from Sun Tzu. I think that's what this is, because remember what happened yesterday with the Netanyahu thing. I think Trump is daring Netanyahu's cabinet to defy him. He's daring the Israelis to undermine the peace process because they think they're going to be able to get away with it because Donald Trump is Donald Trump, but he's also an old Trump. He's an old man. He can't cut it anymore. He can't, look at him. He's worn out. He's worn himself out doing all this. Now's the time to take advantage of it. That's what's being broadcast. And by the way, like this low energy kind of speech that he gave today, where I wouldn't call it low energy. I mean, I would just say that he came out and like in his opening line to the generals was, everyone just relax. Like, we're here to relax. Everyone, if you don't like what I'm saying, you can get up and leave anytime you want. That's fine. Your rank and your commission in this military will be over, of course. But, if you don't like what I'm saying, you can leave. But he was, putting everyone at ease. And it was it was the opposite of how you would expect the president to address all the generals and admirals in the military who had been assembled for the first time in history. That was another thing that Bannon was talking about yesterday on his show. Not even during the American Revolution, before the American Revolution, did George Washington summon all the field generals at any point in the war and have them together in one room. He never did that, not one time. It's never happened before. I think the closest was in World War II. I think a bunch of them were summoned at some point. I think I was reading that yesterday. But I've gone and searched multiple sources and asked multiple AI and asked, Bannon said it himself, to this level where you have every single general, every single active duty general and admiral in one room. It's never happened before. And if you're telling me that we did this so that we could have a pep rally, so Hegseth could explain something that could have easily be put into a memo, I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that. That is all a head fake. That's all. That's the shiny object. Something else is going on here. Now, is it what Trump's talking about, sending the military into U.S. cities and explaining to all the generals and the admirals, maybe in more, smaller group meetings, this is why we have to do this, just so none of you are questioning me behind my back. Like, this is why we're doing this. Here's the evidence. Maybe they're all going into a room and watching, like a giant skiff, and they're watching film. They're watching presentations of why this is going to be necessary. Is it because of what happened yesterday with Netanyahu? I think that we're going to see all assets activated from the Israelis, whatever assets they have around the world, whether it's in Africa or Asia or South America or wherever. You're going to see them activate those assets to agitate the U.S. military and make us allocate resources to different parts of the world. And then of course the Samson Option. The Samson Option, for those who don't know what that is, Samson Option is Israel has allegedly 200 nuclear warheads illegally. They are the one country in the history of the 20th century who has never signed any nuclear agreement. I think there's two groups of countries. There's 4 and 4. 4 that haven't signed one set of nuclear treaties, and another 4 who haven't signed another set of nuclear treaties. Israel's the only country that is on both of those lists, and the other 6 countries that are on the lists, the 3 on one list and the 3 on the second, are both in the process of signing those treaties. And the reason they're doing that is because they want access to nuclear energy. They want like the energy stuff. They don't want nuclear weapons. They want nuclear energy. And now that's actually being offered, because for the past, since 1983 is when we shut down the nuclear energy program, constructing new reactors. There's no reason to sign it because you're not going to get nuclear energy. So why join this treaty where you're going to allow these foreign inspectors to come into your country and inspect your military facilities, right? So Israel has purportedly illegally 200 nuclear warheads, and the Samson Option is a reference to the biblical story of Samson. Samson, of course, was the strong man who fought the Philistines, and when he was fighting the Philistines in their temple and the Philistines started to overwhelm him, he tore down the columns of the temple and brought the whole temple down on all of them, and he died and they died, and it was like a kamikaze moment. So the Samson Option reads like this: if Israel is ever facing an existential threat where they basically have been abandoned by all their allies and left to die, they are going to fire nuclear weapons at all of their allies' key cities, not their enemies' key cities. I mean, I think maybe a few would probably go to their enemies' key cities, I'm sure. But the idea is not to put pressure on the enemies, not to attack them. The idea is to put pressure on the allies to send everything they have militarily to back them up and support them. That's what the alleged Samson Option is. Okay, of course, it's impossible to determine whether that's actual national policy, national security policy for Israel, but that's what the allegation has been for decades. Is that it's the allies of Israel, the United States, France, Britain, Europe. They're the ones who will pay the price if Israel ever faces existential demise. And if you think about that, that might explain why, on top of the potential blackmail situations and financial incentives and AIPAC and all that, why so many countries appear beholden to Israel is because of that dynamic, right? So if there's any truth to that, and I know there are people who think that nuclear weapons aren't real, and that might be true too. It doesn't have to be a nuclear weapon. There are other ways to devastate countries, right? There are other ways to devastate countries besides just nuking their capitals or their big cities. Assassinating all their leaders, right? Assassinating all their key leaders. That's actually what Mossad's really known for. Way more so than their ability to bomb cities. They're known for character assassination, meaning destroying somebody's reputation, or just straight up assassination. So with that said, I think it might make sense to talk about Charlie Kirk, speaking of assassinations, right? So this is from the New York Post. Charlie Kirk wrote of his deep love for Israel in a letter to Netanyahu about how to counter rising opposition to the Jewish state in the U.S. This is a really, really strange story. This is from yesterday. I saw this floating around on social media yesterday. It says, assassinated conservative activist Charlie Kirk advised Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu how to counter, quote, anti-Israel sentiment, end quote, among Gen Z to win the information war being waged against the Jewish state, according to a letter obtained by the Post. Kirk wrote to Netanyahu in the May 2nd missive that he was alarmed by anti-Israel and anti-Semitic trends, hitting, quote, record levels on social media since one of his, quote, greatest joys as a Christian is advocating for Israel and forming alliances with Jews in the fight to protect Judeo-Christian civilization, end quote. Quote, my team and I have spent months analyzing these trends and debating ideas that could help you and your country push back against these disturbing developments, he said in the letter, reproduced in full below for the first time. Quote, anti-Israel sentiment can undermine American support for Israel. Quote, the purpose of this letter is to lay out our concerns and outline potential remedies. Everything written here is from a place of deep love for Israel and the Jewish people, end quote, added Kirk, who defended Israel when speaking on college campuses as part of his duties, leading Turning Point USA, one of the nation's largest conservative youth organizations. Quote, I think it's important to be brutally honest with those you love. In my opinion, Israel is losing the information war and needs a communications intervention. End quote. Netanyahu first mentioned the letter in a September 18th video address 8 days after Kirk, 31, was shot and killed during an event at Utah Valley University to dispute monstrous falsehoods that Israel was somehow behind the killing. Right-wing pundit Candace Owens and others have claimed that Kirk was being blackmailed into making firm defenses of Israel in public while questioning U.S. support for the Jewish state privately. Pershing Square Capital management boss Bill Ackman later published private text via text messages disputing the characterization. In the letter, Kirk urged Netanyahu's team to stop subcontracting rhetorical defenses of Israel to American surrogates and pointed out that as TPS's main voice on American college campuses, he often felt like he was defending Israel in public more strenuously than the PM's office from accusations and questions, including 1. Israel is an apartheid state. 2. Why does Israel conduct ethnic cleansing? 3. Why is America subsidizing Israel's genocide against the Palestinian people? 4. Is American aid helping to subsidize Israel's free healthcare? 5. Israel and the Jews are running U.S. foreign policy. 6. Israel and Jews are responsible for 9/11. 7. Defending Israel is not in our U.S. national interest. And 8. Why is Israel trying to drag us into a war in the Middle East? Quote, I'm accused of being a paid apologist for Israel when I defend her. However, if I don't defend Israel strongly enough, I'm accused of being anti-Semitic, Kirk added in his letter. I know you've got a seven-front war, and my kvetching pales in comparison. That's a strange, okay, it's strange for him to say that word, but okay. But I'm trying to convey to you that Israel is losing support even in conservative circles. This should be a 5-alarm fire. The late TPUSA leader listed 7 suggestions for turning the tide of public opinion, including building out a rapid response team on X and other platforms similar to that of President Trump's White House staff, cultivate pro-Israel experts to fact-check misinformation about the Gaza war in real time, and create an Israel Truth Network as a clearinghouse of reliable information. Quote, when you don't push back, anti-Semitism and anti-Israel propaganda fill a void, he said. Quote, a pro-Israel friend recently asked me, do Israelis even care how the world perceives their country? Kirk also suggested sending some of the hostages released from Gaza on a speaking tour across the U.S. would be very effective messaging. Quote, also, these hostages and all your spokespersons should be arguing it's Hamas that is committing a genocide on their own people by using civilians as human shields and storing weapons in schools, hospitals, etc., he added. That information drips out in the regular media, but is also non-existent on social media. Kirk further pushed for the promotion of social media posts about everyday life in Israel where citizens are asked what they love about their country. Quote, interview Jews, Israeli Arabs, Druze, Orthodox, secular, etc. Ask Israelis what do they wish the world knew about Israel, he explained. Ask them to respond to examples of misinformation on social media. This could be an entire social media PR campaign called Dude, You Got Us Wrong. Interview from Israelis from all walks of life. Kirk also urged Netanyahu to do a better job explaining the threat of Iran getting nuclear weapons, since among many conservatives who support Israel, there is a concern that America could become entangled in a quagmire in Iran. Finally, he spurred the Israelis to cultivate more first-person social media voices from the younger generation defending the Jewish state. Quote, I've seen your IDF spokesman defending Israel standing at a dimly lit podium, he went on. This looks like a scene out of the 1970s, like some Walter Cronkite clips out of the TV news. You need to tear down your old ways of communicating and start over from scratch. In my opinion, you are losing the information war, which will eventually translate into less political and military support from America, he concluded. The Holy Land is so important in my life, and it pains me to see support for Israel slip away. Kirk's accused assassin Tyler Robinson, 22, was apprehended the day after the activist's murder and faces the death penalty on a charge of aggravated murder. Yeah, okay. I mean, look, guys, like this thing could be totally real. I mean, here's the letter, but let me just give you like my knee-jerk take on this. It's a 7-page letter. Okay. Here, like, look, I am not, as I said this morning, we didn't even talk about this on Badlands Daily this morning, but as I said on Badlands Daily this morning, I am not Charlie. I was not Charlie Kirk's biggest fan. That's no secret. Okay. But I am deeply disturbed by the way I'm seeing his like corpse, for lack of a better word, treated. Because I don't know how else to describe this. You know, it's one thing if you want to attack his political positions. Like I'm willing to debate all of those things. I'm willing to debate the things he said on camera about Israel and other things all day. I'm willing to debate the fact that he contracted Scott Pressler to the tune of $5 million to like ballot harvest. Like I'm willing to debate all those things. But once we start like introducing new evidence, like new, you know, like, I don't know, once we start introducing new things, like here are things that Charlie Kirk was saying that nobody knew he was saying. It's like, man, that gets really, really murky really quick. Like I know that Tucker's out there saying that in private, Tucker, like Charlie was saying, he was turning on Israel. I know Candace is saying that. Other people are saying that. Now, the thing about that is that there is a lot of clips that I can look at that I was not aware of until his death because I didn't go out looking for Charlie Kirk clips. And all of a sudden they start populating the algorithms after he dies, where it does appear that he is starting to question Israel. I mean, the most compelling of those is the day before he was shot. He was doing an interview with Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro was on his show, and he says, Ben, is the media telling us the full truth when it comes to Israel and its war in Gaza? Very fair question, right? So there is evidence to back up the assertion that other people are making that in private, he was not a fan of Netanyahu. He was souring on that. He was questioning whether or not he should publicly support this never-ending war. He certainly had made comments. I had seen comments about him talking about forever wars and how they were a problem and how going to the Middle East in the first place after 9/11 was a big mistake. I've seen him say that. I've seen him say all that stuff. So those assertions by people like Tucker and Candace, I think, have weight and they are interesting. This letter, though, is like a little much because while this letter, I think, fits the caricature of that I view Charlie as prior to his death, before I saw all those clips, some of the stuff that's in here, you know, is a little like goofy. It's a little goofy. Like right here, when he says you need something perhaps like an Israel Truth Network, which can include social media channels and a one-stop source of information website where, for example, all the negative Israel questions I can get thoroughly debunked. Like, first of all, I think that they were actively doing that kind of stuff. I think all over the place they were like debunking quote unquote lies about Israel. I saw that all over social media for the past several years. I mean, as somebody who was speaking out against Israel, I was inundated with that stuff from people all over the place who disagreed with me in the Badlands chats and other places. That was already out there, number one. Number two, in spite of all of my criticisms of Charlie Kirk and all the things I've said about him, I find it very hard to believe that Charlie would, in writing, just 3 or 4 months ago, 5 months ago, would have written down, in writing, we should create basically a ministry of truth for Israel, and you should basically beef up your propaganda arm. Considering the clips I was seeing him, beginning with July 13th when he had the turning point, like he platformed Tucker and Steve Bannon, and according to Tucker, Charlie told him before he goes out on stage, talk about, like, criticize Israel, connect to Epstein, like, do all that stuff. I find it very hard to believe that 2 months before that, at the beginning of May, he writes this letter. If 2 months later he's going to platform Tucker and Bannon, like, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Now, it's possible that this letter is real. And if it is, shame on Charlie for writing it, because I disagree with so many things that are written in this letter and that are characterized in this letter. But again, I feel weird criticizing it because I don't even know if Charlie actually wrote it. If Charlie's wife was to come out and say, I helped him write the letter, you could basically say my signature is on it. Like, okay, that becomes a little more convincing. But man, this is just this thing, my spidey senses are going off. My gaydar is going off on this. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I just don't. And, the presentation from the desk of Charlie Kirk, it doesn't even have let me see what a Turning Point USA. I've seen Turning Point emails that like Candace Owens has put out, and others have put out. What does the letterhead look like? Like it doesn't even have the Turning Point letterhead. It doesn't even have, like, maybe he doesn't want Turning Point affiliated with like what he's writing, but I just find it so hard to believe that he would even put this in writing and send it out, knowing that it could very easily be like released and weaponized against him if he ever decided to turn against Israel publicly, which, given the language that Donald Trump has been saying over the past year, seems pretty likely that, like, and if you're Charlie Kirk, you got to be thinking in your head, well, at some point I'm going to start questioning Israel. And once you start doing that, they're going to roll this letter back out. They're going to say, well, why did you write this letter in May? I'm just not buying it. That's just my take. And then I want to get to this kid, Hollyhand, okay? Because probably the most disturbing thing that I've seen happen in this whole, and there's been a lot of disturbing stuff that's happened, but one of the most disturbing things I've seen happen is the Hollyhand, like this Brilyn is his name, Brilyn Hollyhand. This kid. Okay, he's like the right wing Harry Sisson, who's here on the right. I mean, he literally almost looks like him. Okay, and I've seen people make I forgot who it was. Somebody made a pretty good analysis of this like video that he put out there, where he's like, "Oh yeah, like I said I was driving 10 hours to this college appearance." This kid, I think, is from Alabama. It sounds like. And I told a buddy, and my buddy said, "Oh, take my private jet." So it's not my private jet, guys, but I have a friend with a private jet. While he's wearing a Master shirt, and for those who don't know what that means, I mean, I have Master shirts because I was lucky enough to get a ticket to the Masters this year. I didn't pay for it. My dad got them through work, and so we were able to go without having to like pay for them because those things are very hard to get. But I probably will never go back to the Masters because I'll never get that opportunity again. It was just something that my dad got through his professional work. Kind of like one of those once in a lifetime things. You can only purchase Augusta. That's what that logo right there is. You can only purchase that gear. Now they sell it online, like knockoffs and stuff, but you can only purchase that stuff at Augusta. That's like it's like the exclusivity of it, right? So he's wearing a Master shirt, meaning he is probably a member of Augusta. He's been to Augusta, which is like the most exclusive golf club in the country, the elite of the elite. He's on a private jet, and the commentary I saw from the person who posted it said, the thing about Charlie Kirk that was really endearing is that he was able to connect with college kids. This kid is in a private jet wearing like a Master shirt and talking about how he's going to connect with college kids, and it's just not relatable at all to the average college kid. And I totally get that. Like 100% agree with that. 100% agree with that. It's mind blowing that this kid is doing this. But the most offensive thing to me, and I won't spend a ton of time on this kid, is this. The Fox News clip from 1 hour after he was shot. So this was, I went and checked this, and this appears to be accurate. This was aired 1 hour after Charlie Kirk was shot. And
it's also an incredible story.
Why is
story that you share with us really quickly, Brilyn?
Oh, it's because my computer sound for some reason is turned off. Okay, so this is aired 1 hour after Charlie Kirk was shot. And remember, Charlie Kirk was shot. He gets rushed to the hospital. There's talk about him still being alive. It's 30 or 40 minutes after he's shot that he's actually announced as being dead. So if this is 1 hour after Charlie Kirk is shot, that means this kid was on air doing this 20 minutes after Charlie Kirk is officially formally announced dead. Okay. And this kid apparently was mentored by Charlie for many, many years. He was like Charlie Kirk's protege. There's pictures of him when he's way younger, like this Hollyhand kid, way younger, meeting Charlie Kirk like 10 years ago or so. He's basically being groomed to be the younger Charlie Kirk. Listen to the way this kid is talking about the situation 20 minutes after learning Charlie Kirk is dead.
It's also an incredible story that you share with us really quickly, Brilyn, about fourth grade, a podcast. That's incredible. And Charlie Kirk appears on your podcast. Tell me about the role he played for you as a mentor.
Yeah, again, it's somebody that didn't have to do that. He was on Fox News every other hour that year. He didn't have to make time for me as an 11-year-old with this upcoming podcast in the fourth grade to come on and join me, but he did. And not only was it a one-time thing, I've interviewed hundreds of people that I've never talked to again. He stayed a mentor, and he texted me up until this week when I was on another Fox show congratulating me. Like, he didn't have to do that. He could have given me his competition. He could have said, oh, I'm not going to give this kid time, but he did. And what I think the larger theme here is the left loves to preach tolerance. They love to preach tolerance. And in situations like this, that's the last thing we're seeing. The media coverage on the other side of the aisle is not like this. I was just scrolling through channels. And obviously the person that took this live, this is heartbreaking, Will. And I really hope, if anything, that people get off the sidelines. This weekend, I'm going to a youth rally in South Carolina. And you better believe that I've already had my team shoot me text saying, Brilyn, you really need to caution this. You really need to think about not standing in the middle of a park and speak to the next generation. But I am more energized than ever to carry on this torch, to carry on this legacy, because that's what Charlie would have wanted. He would have wanted us to continue to fight the good fight, just like he did.
No doubt, Brilyn. No doubt. Thank you so much.
I mean, that is one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen in my life. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Like, that kid does not seem at all impacted by the fact that his apparently, allegedly, his friend, I mean, I'm assuming he just said he's friends with Charlie Kirk. He was texting with him the week that he was shot. 20 minutes after this kid, even if it was a full hour after he was shot, let's just say it was an hour after they announced Charlie Kirk was dead. But you can clearly see the chyron here at the bottom. Trump, Charlie Kirk is dead after shooting. Trump was really the one who made it official. When Trump posted Charlie Kirk is dead, that's when it became official that Charlie Kirk was dead. And so Fox News is reporting that. Somehow they have this kid like on speed dial. They're going to call him up and say, hey, come on. I mean, look at the expression on this kid's face. He's smiling ear to ear. He doesn't seem to be, I mean, look at the smile. He's smiling. He just learned that his friend was dead. I mean, I didn't even necessarily really like Charlie. I mean, he seemed like a good guy. He seemed like a good father. He seemed like a good husband. Like I acknowledge all that. I mean, my one problem with him was just the way that I felt he was misleading Christians to support Israel. That was really my one problem with him. But I'm starting to learn that maybe that wasn't the truth or the case. Maybe there's more to it than that. But, I was not a fan of Charlie Kirk, and I feel like I was more affected by his killing than this kid was. And this kid knew him. It's like, not only that, is he also is promoting his upcoming like rally, which is basically like a Charlie Kirk rally hosted by this kid. And then he goes as far as to be like, I'm being told I shouldn't go out there and put myself in public. Kid, does anybody even know who you are? Like, I didn't even know who this kid was until Friday night when all this went viral. But he's everywhere now. He's all over Fox News. I keep seeing more and more clips of this kid. He's being shoved down my throat on my algorithm. I didn't even go looking for him. I haven't even gone looking for him, and he's being shoved down my throat on my algorithm. And it's very clear that this kid is supposed to be the replacement Charlie Kirk. And the grossest part about it all, of course, is the fact. Let me just go back to my feed because I have it right here. The grossest part about it all is the fact that this kid is like look at this post. This is from June 22nd, 2025. They say America first means isolation. Wrong. It means putting God, country, and freedom before global chaos. We stand with Israel because we stand with peace against evil. No apologies, no surrender. And it's like, wait a minute. So you're basically saying that if you want to be America first, you have to support forever wars, international, like the intervention, foreign policy, all the stuff we were doing in George Bush's term, neocon, Zionist George Bush. That's what America first is now, right? And he's using the word isolation. Isolationist. Laura Loomer was boosting this kid. Mark Levin was boosting this kid. All the people like Ben Shapiro, here's Ben Shapiro boosting this kid. All the people who are like the pro-Israel people are boosting this kid. This thing glows like nothing I've ever seen in my life. And if you are somebody who liked Charlie Kirk and you're someone who was a fan of Charlie Kirk, I know a lot of Badlanders were, and there are a lot of people who listen to my stuff really like Charlie Kirk. You got to be concerned when you see this. This is like very, very jarring to see this. And again, like I feel like I was more affected by Charlie Kirk's assassination than this kid was. So I don't buy any of this stuff. I have a few more things I want to present on this, but before we do, just because the show is going to be wrapped up early, let's hit an ad break. We'll be right back. Geopolitics with Ghost.
Deodorant should do more than cover you up. It should protect you all day long.
Dude, the deodorant stick is legit. I like the mint one. And, you go work out and you kind of get like, you get funky if you work out. Dude, like at the end of my workout, like I'm sweating, shirt got all those sweat. Like I'm like, dude, I still smell good. Like I absolutely love it. If you guys haven't tried it, try it.
That's the difference with Soft Disclosure. No aluminum, no chemicals, just clean, natural ingredients that fight odor and keep you fresh through every workout, every meeting, every moment.
I've always struggled with the you can't use aluminum deodorant because you're going to die if you use it kind of thing, because all of the non-aluminum deodorant products suck pretty much. Yeah. This is different. This is all day. You're all day good, and you're not putting any of that disgusting chemicals right near your lymph nodes.
Soft Disclosure deodorant, real protection, real freshness, built on truth. Available in mint and lemon grapefruit. Visit softdisclosure.com and use promo code Badlands for 15% off.
Soft Disclosure.
Introducing Tamarack Gardens handcrafted herbal remedies, tears, and skincare made with weeds, wildflowers, and wild harvested herbs in the Pacific Northwest. Their products will heal your skin, boost collagen, lighten dark spots, and slow aging. Plus, it is safe for babies, grandmas, and everyone in between. From salves for headaches, bug bites, and arthritis to supplements for liver and kidney health, they harness God's bounty for your health and to keep you out of the doctor's office. Family owned in North Idaho, Tamarack Gardens dermatologist recommended products support your body inside and out because your health deserves better. Visit tamarackgarden.com today, and with promo code Badlands, you will get free shipping on orders over $35. That's tamarackgarden.com, promo code Badlands.
show. But I'd rather die happy than not die at all. For a man is a fool if he does not heed this call. Heed this call.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back to the show. Yeah, sorry, that was a little abrupt. Yeah, Geopolitics with Ghosts. It's not going to be another full hour. We're probably going to do another 20 minutes or so. So that wasn't quite halftime. We'll kind of round out some of my thoughts on this and show you a few more things. And Pied Square, I see in the chat. Welcome to the show. Don't recognize your name. Not a recovering Democrat, actually. And I didn't hate Charlie Kirk. I did have plenty to say about Charlie Kirk, though, because I think any time that you are teaching people to worship a government, which is effectively what TPUSA's rhetoric was when it comes to Israel, and I will never retract that. I've made that very clear, that the messaging out of Turning Point USA has always been to worship government, to worship the Israeli government. And no matter what the Israeli government does, they're in the right. That is a leftist policy. So I'm not the one who's the leftist. The people who are ardent Zionists who worship the Israeli government, you're actually the leftist. You just don't realize it. I supported Donald Trump for president in 2012. So welcome to the Trump train, my friend. Stick around. You'll have fun here. Yeah, so let's look at, on that note, let's look at this guy, Ronald Lauder. And this kind of speaks to, what the big problem is, I think, that we're going to be up against when it comes to Israel and having to take this thing on, because I've had Jewish people come up to me at GART and in total agreement with the stuff that some of them were even Israeli, and the stuff that I talk about and post. So again, these criticisms and these critiques are not like we don't do identity politics. We're not leftists here. So we don't engage in the identity politics. The expectation, as I said last week, is not that we are going to adjust our morals and become moral relativists to placate the delicate sensibilities of others. The expectation is that we are going to do the moral and righteous thing always, the first principles position. And my expectation is that Jewish people will recognize the repugnant things that are happening and join us on our side and look at this and say, you know what? This is a secular government of men. And whether you're Jewish or Christian or Muslim or whatever, we don't kneel to earthly masters. We don't kneel to government. We don't kneel to other human beings. We don't kneel to the Sanhedrin. We don't do any of that stuff. So, that's what, but what we're up against is this ideology that believes that Jewish people, because of their minority status and because of their history of persecution and because of their identity, they have a moral obligation, no matter what their political persuasion, no matter what their faith is, to circle the wagons and defend other Jewish people, no matter what, no matter how awful they are. Okay? Defend Jeffrey Epstein. Defend Harvey Weinstein. Defend all of it. Defend the state of Israel, no matter what the government is doing. That's the belief. Okay, that's the expectation, and that's what's despicable in my mind. And so the expectation again is not that we're going to adjust our morals to placate your delicate sensibilities. The expectation is that if you're going to be an immoral degenerate, we're going to call you out for it, whether you're Jewish or Christian, because I think there's way more Christians actually that end up bending the knee to this stuff than there are Jewish people, because there's more Christians. There's like 40 million Christian Zionists or whatever, and there's only 16, 17 million Jews in the world. And not all of them even support Israel. So this guy, Ronald Lauder, he's actually the president of the World Jewish Congress. And we actually covered a story about this guy a few months ago. I think it was June or July, because he told Netanyahu that he's like, he told the World Jewish Congress, is Netanyahu allowing this Smotrich guy and this Ben Gvir guy to run around and say all this psychotic stuff in public? Why doesn't he reel those guys in? Like, these guys are making all of us look bad. to his credit, like I was like, okay, well, I don't know if he's saying they're making us look bad because he disagrees with what they're saying because they're immoral degenerates, or if he's saying that, they're making us look bad. I agree with what they're saying. Just don't say it out loud. I don't know which side of the fence he falls on. He could be, his heart could be in the right place. Maybe. But listen to what he says here, because here he is on September 28th, meeting with Jelani, the president of Syria. Okay. And let me share my screen. Don't worry. You haven't missed anything yet. And actually, this is the one that I wanted to share. This is his X account. So he says his X account says father, grandfather, and husband, president of the WJC, an American patriot and a great supporter of the state of Israel and the Jewish people. And then there's a link to the World Jewish Congress. And then here he is with Al Jelani. Okay, September 28th. And he says right here, September 21st, on behalf of the World Jewish Congress, I congratulate Mike Waltz on his confirmation. Look forward to working with him for American values at the UN. Did Mike Waltz get confirmed? I didn't think he had gotten confirmed. Maybe he did. I don't know. But I did not think he had gotten confirmed. If he did, then it was not widely reported. I know that Tammy Bruce has not been confirmed. Okay, so this is what I wanted to share was this. And this is like a 5-minute video, but I think it's worth listening to. Listen to what this guy says. He says, I wish for all of you a good year of good health, great joy, a year of fulfillment, but also this, I want to wish my people, all of you, a year where we stand together as one proud people, because when we stand for each other, when we defend each other as brothers and sisters, as family, no one can hurt us. May 5786, which is the year, like the Jewish year, be our greatest year of unity. May it also be the year the hostages come home. May our God continue to protect us and shine his light upon us. Israel Kai. Okay. Listen to what he says here.
Lauder, it has been the honor of my life to serve as president of the World Jewish Congress, which represents 100 Jewish communities as we come to the holiest time in Jewish calendar. I wanted to share some of my thoughts with all of you, my fellow Jews. 5786 comes at a continuing difficult time. You are all aware of the war Israel has been fighting since Hamas attacked us 2 years ago. You're also aware of the wave of anti-Semitism this war has sparked. But I want to talk to you today about something else in this brief message. It's the divisions that we see within the Jewish community. I cannot say this strongly enough. Whether you are Orthodox, conservative, Reformed, or completely unaffiliated, whether your Judaism is a strong part of your life and who you are, or if it means nothing at all, our strength as a people and our safety in this dangerous world lies in our unity as Jews. It always has. And we absolutely cannot afford to create divisions within our own people. There are enough people outside that want to do us harm. In my travels to communities all across the globe over the past 40 years, I have met Jews on the left and Jews on the right, Orthodox Jews, secular Jews, Jews who care deeply about Israel, and Jews that don't even believe what Israel stands for. But I always believed in my heart, whatever their beliefs, they are still Jews. Let's not judge each other by what we say or what we think, especially family and friends. Even if your child shouts Free Palestine or something else you strongly disagree with, remember, they're trying to show their independence and will learn as they grow. They are also a product of a broken education system that has been indoctrinating students against Israel for years. This year, let's focus on fixing that system. It may be too late for this generation, but it's not too late for the future. There is an old Hasidic belief that every Jew has a Jewish flame in their heart. Sometimes that flame is covered by layers of dust that accumulate over the years. Sometimes that flame can barely be detected. but that flame still burns and it never goes out. For me, it happened when I was 38 years old. Kurt Waldheim, the former UN Secretary General, who lied about his Nazi past, had just been elected president of Austria when I arrived there as ambassador.
I'm sorry. Can we just like real quick? Can we just pause it right there? I just want to. This is what Matt Ehret and I talk about all the time on Breaking History. Okay. So like it's kind of hard to understand what this guy says, but because he speaks with speech impediment or something. I think it's just age. Maybe it's an accent. I don't know. But he's talking about the Jewish flame being lit inside of you.
For me,
it happened
when I was 38 years old.
When I was 38 years old, I'm going to silence him and I'm going to read it. Kirk Waldheim, the former UN Secretary General, who lied about his Nazi past, had just become elected president of Austria when I arrived there as ambassador. So, just to be clear, the UN and NATO, you had former Nazis, former Third Reich members at the highest levels, Secretary General of the UN, of the highest levels of NATO and the UN, former Nazis. So again, the contradiction there is that those are supposed to be those guys are supposed to be from the losing side, right? They lost World War II, and yet they got to become the highest ranking figures in NATO, in the UN, in the CIA, in NASA, in the US government, while their comrades, some of them were marched off to Nuremberg and hanged as traitors and hanged as war criminals. I don't know, man. I'm very skeptical about the history we've been told. All right, I'm going to turn it back on.
With anti-Semitism, that ignited that Jewish flame in my heart, a flame that has only grown stronger with each passing year. We are such a small number throughout the world. There is no logical reason we should still be here, practicing the same rituals, reading the same prayer books, the same language that our forefathers read thousands of years ago. Yet here we are, and the list of mighty accomplishments the Jewish people have given to the world defies logic, and it certainly defies small numbers. So this year, when you go to synagogue with your family, or if you don't even set foot in the synagogue, you're still a Jew. And my wish for all of you is a year of good health, great joy, a year of fulfillment, but also this. I want to wish my people, all of you, a year when we stand together as one proud people. Because when we stand for each other, or we defend each other as brothers and sisters, as family, no one can hurt us. May 5786 be our greatest year of unity. May it also be the year the hostages come home, the Shana Tova, and may our God continue to protect us and shine his light upon us. Am Yisrael Kai.
Okay, I wanted to play that in its entirety because I didn't want to cut it short and then people to accuse me of taking him out of context. I wanted him to get his full message out. Okay, and I see skeptical in the chat is saying, look at the portrait in the back. That's Theodor Herzl. He's considered the father of Zionism, although Zionism existed for like a century before he ever came along. He basically just came and connected all the Zionists with the bankers in Prussia and London because he had all the political connections because he grew up in Germany as like a gentrified Jew and knew like all the power players and stuff. So he had all the political connections, but a lot of the Orthodox Jews back then viewed him as kind of like a race traitor almost. That's what they called him. So anyway, I want to kind of dissect what this guy just said because I think this is really, really important for both non-Jewish and Jewish people to hear. What this guy is saying is he is saying that regardless of what your political beliefs are, whether you're on the right or you're on the left, whether you are a deeply devout Jew or a secularist Jew, like you don't even like you're an atheist basically, or you maybe are like you identify as Jewish, but you don't practice like you don't observe Shabbat or whatever, right? Like but you identify as Jewish and you believe in God. That's what's called a secular Jew. He said, no matter what you are, you're Jewish, and we should unify, like unity. Like we should stand together, no matter what nationality you are, no matter what, like whatever your loyalties are, your highest loyalty should be to your Jewish identity. And, at Badlands, we have spoken out a lot against unity lately. And the reason is because unity, I think, is used as a term that sounds really nice in principle. Like it sounds really nice at face value. But when you really dig into what is meant by unity, you learn that what it means is no dissent, no questioning, no, go along with the narrative, no discussion, accept what we're doing no matter what. Capitulation, right? Submission. If you're a Jewish person, you have no moral obligation to defend Israel. You have no moral obligation to surrender your reasoning, your logic, your critical thinking to the Israeli government, especially if it's a foreign government. If you're an American citizen, you have no obligation to any of that stuff. This guy's talking about, and I think what he is pushing is the very thing that drives anti-Semitism in the first place, is this idea that there's a higher loyalty to this identity than, your community, your nation, your family. I mean, it's insane. It's like saying, hey, Black people, all of you should be, your highest loyalty should be to Bad Boy Records. Your highest loyalty should be to the government of Angola. Your highest loyalty should be to Puff Daddy, to Sean Diddy, right? I mean, that's the equivalent here. Is like they are reducing you to your lowest common denominator, and then saying, because of this one aspect of your identity, you basically should adopt our political view and not question it ever. And I think that is despicable. And I encourage every Jewish person listening to this to reject this framing and reject this guy's plea. And, it's not like the persecution, so to speak, of Jewish people is not about Jewish people. It's about the actions of the Israeli government and the perception that there is a secret shadow society, like a secret society of Jewish oligarchs who are imposing their will on society, on governments around the world, with this messaging, with this idea behind it, that the highest loyalty is to the Jewish identity and not to what is right and wrong, and not to, a nation state, and not to a community. So, this guy is actually just proving people like Nick Fuentes right. Like when he puts stuff like this out, and whether or not he even realizes it, it's like you're playing right into the hands of the people who say, hey, all Jewish people care about are Jewish people, and they don't care if everyone else, if everyone else has to lose in order for them to win, that's what's going to happen. This is the identity politics that we have to reject. If we don't reject the identity politics here, it's going to be weaponized against us for tribalism. It's been used against the Muslims, the Arabs, for generations. And that's why they haven't been able to organize and get on the same page. They finally have done that. They've gotten on the same page, and it's going to lead to them like entering a age of prosperity that they've never seen before. Not since at least the golden age of Islam. So anyway, I hope that all makes sense. I think we're probably going to wrap it up there. Hold on one second. I just need to verify whether my wife is back with the kids. If my wife is not back with the kids, maybe I'll go for a few minutes and a few more minutes and hit one more story. 1 second. Okay, I think she actually is here. So we are going to go ahead and take the kids to the carnival. But I appreciate everyone being here. Hit the thumbs up. I'm going to go have fun with my kids. Y'all go have fun with your kids. Enjoy your families. Enjoy your life. There'll be plenty to talk about on Friday. I have some really, really interesting stories that connect to stuff that we've been digging on that we didn't get to today. But I just thought that we were already talking about this subject, so we might as well just go all the way. And I hope it's all well received. Hit the thumbs up, and we will see you tomorrow on Breaking History. It was pre-recorded last night with Cynthia Chung. She's gonna Matt's wife. She's doing a presentation that is very, very interesting. So I'll see you there, and then back here, Geopolitics with Ghost on Friday at 2 p.m. All right, guys. Friday.
Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up on this video. And a special thank you to all of our advertising partners. Please remember to shift your dollars to support those businesses that support Badlands Media.